These are the market developments for the weeks between February 23rd and March 22nd. Our group is composed of Landon, Swain, Brenner, Swenson, Tyler Park, and myself, Zane, Lyons. Two already large private companies started trading over the past couple weeks. The biggest and most popular of these is Snapchat. Snapchat had started trading on Thursday, March 2nd at an opening price of $17. They closed that same day at $24.48, up 44% in the first day. After the initial boost, the company's share price has been steadily falling due to concerns about the company's stagnant user base and doubts of profitability. The second of these IPOs is Canada Goose, the luxury outdoor apparel company. Started trading on Thursday, March 16th with an opening price of $18, closing that same day at $16.08. Canada Goose is a cyclical business, and it's hard to determine how the company will fare after less than a week of trading. Animal activist group PETA reportedly purchased shares of the company during this IPO in order to voice its disapproval with the animal products used in their jackets. Additionally, Okta, a tech startup, and Yext, a knowledge engine for businesses, both filed for IPOs on March 13th and are expected to start trading in the coming weeks. In other recent financing, Tesla recently announced a $1 billion capital raise to be used to expand manufacturing for their upcoming Model 3 car. This capital raise will be comprised of $250 million in common stock and $750 million in convertible senior notes. In the merger and acquisition market, PSA Group, parent of car brands Peugeot and Citroën, will purchase the European operations of car manufacturer General Motors for 2.2 billion euros. In doing this, they will become the new owners of Vauxhall and Opel brand cars. GM has lost roughly $9 billion since 2009 in Europe, and this deal will make PSA the second largest car maker in Europe. This provides them a 16% market share, and adding GM's Europe business will make them larger than Renault and second only to Volkswagen in the industry. Additionally, Intel, the technology company that develops semiconductors, microchips, and a multitude of other technology platforms, has announced their acquisition of Mobileye. Mobileye develops computer vision and machine learning-based sensing products like mapping for driver assistance systems and autonomous driving technologies. Intel, along with competitors like Qualcomm, is focusing on expanding within the semiconductor industry and into the autonomous vehicle market. This makes Intel a Tier 1 partner for the autonomous automotive industry by purchasing Mobileye's outstanding shares at $63.54 to their closing price, a 34% premium.
The Dow has slowed its climb through record territory this week as some investors are concerned about the new administration's ability to deliver on campaign promises such as tax cuts, deregulation, and infrastructure investment, as President Donald Trump struggles to round up support for the healthcare legislation. The potential for those policies have boosted stocks earlier this year. The Dow closed today down 3 basis points at 2661.30, down 1.6% from this week's high of 2995.57. In domestic economic news, companies added jobs at a staggering pace in February, with employment in the private sector increasing by 298,000. This figure shattered market expectations of 190,000, according to economists surveyed by ADP. Leading this surge were goods and producers with 106,000, construction at 66,000, and manufacturing at 32,000. These numbers show a notable shift away from the service sector positions that have dominated hiring for years. Existing home sales declined in February as tight inventory and raising prices frustrated potential buyers and slowed sales activity for February. Purchases of previously owned homes in the U.S. declined by 3.7% from January. Economists said the combination of rising prices and mortgage rates is expected to push some buyers out of the market this year. When asked about the decline in sales, Todd Tomilak, vice president of research at John Burns Real Estate Consulting, said, "You either have to believe that we're in a bubble right now, or you have to believe that sales are going to decline. New home construction is starting to pick up, which could relieve some of the inventory shortage in the coming months." In global economic news, the UK experienced a 0.5% increase in inflation last month, up to 2.3% from 1.8% in January. Fuel and food prices continue to rise, which is making imports more expensive. The decline of the pound has also had an effect on the increasing inflation. Some people are concerned that the Central Bank of England is not raising interest rates fast enough, but the central bank reassures people not to panic and not to be focused on a single data point. UK economists predict inflation to be around 3% by the end of next year.
Warren Buffett has doubled his stake in Apple over the last month. That makes Apple Berkshire Hathaway's third largest holding, trailing only after Kraft Heinz, which recently pulled the plug on an offer of $140 billion to buy European food conglomerate Unilever. Shares of Apple are now up 18% this year, making it the best performer in the Dow. Consumer confidence increased in February to the highest level since July 2001 as Americans grew more upbeat about present and future conditions, according to a report from the New York-based Conference Board. Wall Street gained following Trump's election with expectations of lower business regulation and huge tax cuts. Consumers are more confident on hopes for improved healthcare and domestic economy. Officials from the Commerce Department, IRS, FDIC, and Illinois State Police searched Caterpillar's corporate headquarters in Illinois in a raid seeking evidence related to exports and a Swiss subsidiary as part of a criminal probe. Caterpillar shares fell after the raid, losing 4.3%, falling to $94, the biggest decline since June. Stephen Ross, most renowned for his arbitrage pricing theory, passed away earlier this month. The theory, commonly known as APT, is used to identify and exploit mispriced assets. Ross was also the co-creator of the well-known binomial model for pricing options. The Winklevoss twins, known as the co-founders of Harvard Connection, and also known for suing Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg, attempted to file a Bitcoin ETF with the SEC. Government regulators declined to approve the twins' proposal for a Bitcoin investment vehicle that would be easily accessible to millions of Americans through common accounts like IRAs and 401ks. Deutsche Bank said it will seek to raise about 8 billion euros in the next few weeks, its fourth capital raise since 2010. The four raises add up to a total of about 30 billion euros, more than the bank's current market value. Deutsche Bank's share price took a hammering in September, crashing to its lowest level in more than 20 years because of fears that it didn't have the funds to cover its mounting legal costs. China's largest Bitcoin exchanges have extended a self-imposed suspension on all coin withdrawals for an indefinite period as they seek regulatory approval for the cryptocurrency. The digital currency, which last week passed the price of an ounce of gold for the first time, has come under increased pressure by Chinese authorities worried about money laundering and capital flight. China's regulators are concerned about the digital currency's role in criminal activities. So to avoid getting shut down, those Bitcoin exchanges, which let you deposit or withdraw Bitcoins like any bank, put the suspension on themselves so they have time to comply with regulators' anti-money laundering worries. E-Trade and Schwab have lowered trading fees to compete with other brokers. E-Trade first introduced cut rate pricing for online trades of stocks. Since then, competitive pressure to reduce fees and the introduction of lower fee investment options like ETFs have made it incredibly cheaper to buy and sell stocks, with most firms charging below $10 a trade. Just like cut rate offerings from Sprint and T-Mobile caused Verizon to offer an unlimited data plan last month, a possible pricing war and brokerage fees caused stocks to fall for Schwab, TD Ameritrade, and E-Trade on concerns that customer stock trading will bring less money to the firms than before. American Express has raised their Platinum card fee by $100. This move could help Amex better compete with Chase's popular new Sapphire Reserve card while also boosting revenue. Rewards programs have been fueling a lot of growth in the credit card sector. Amex officials have said that the vast majority of the recent share loss is due to the end of their relationship with Costco.
This past week, the Federal Reserve decided to raise interest rates from 0.75% to 1%, signaling nearly 9 years after the recession that the economy is starting to look more normal now than it has in nearly a decade. This hike in interest rates comes after financial markets in the United States is set to experience new record-breaking growth. This hike in interest rates will not only boost the return you can get from a simple savings account, but also increase the cost of borrowing from everything from car loans to mortgages and credit cards. Markets in Europe are still experiencing large volatility as the divorce between England and the EU will be effective no later than April 2019. Although that is about 2 years away, government officials, along with business leaders and corporations, are struggling to articulate the specifics of the referendum. As further evidence of this uncertainty, the British pound has slipped 18% since the vote was announced in June of 2016. Uncertainties are likely to persist given complicated trade implications that are so important in today's globally focused economy. As global oil supplies have put downward pressure on crude prices since the later part of 2014, OPEC, in an effort to rebound the price of the commodity, decided to further cut outputs in hopes to see prices upward of $60 per barrel. However, increased storage capacity and supply from the U.S. shale boom has offset some of the power that members of the cartel, such as Russia and Saudi Arabia, have in the global market. Further output for global crude prices and margins is likely to be bleak given President Trump's plan to bring more blue-collar jobs, including increased oil production, back into the United States, which is leaving OPEC with fewer options to cut out competition and return to profitability seen in 2014 and before. For hedge fund news, Bill Ackman, the CEO of Pershing Square Capital Management, a $12.4 billion hedge fund, announced earlier last week that the firm had liquidated its stake in Valiant Pharmaceuticals, a Canadian company, after its total value fell over 90% from allegations that the company inflated prices and participated in questionable accounting practices. Despite Mr. Ackman getting a seat on the board and replacing the CEO, the time and resources for Valiant were far too great considering the value that was already lost from the drop in the stock price. And in a more macro view of hedge fund events, an increased amount of hedge funds are starting to see an outflow of funds that hasn't been experienced since before the recession. In 2016, investors pulled approximately $70.1 billion from funds, causing 1,057 to close their doors in response, as compared to 1,023 in 2009. Experts are saying that due to the oversaturated market for hedge funds, investors are able to move between funds easier than ever before, further lowering the tolerance for mistakes and high fees that funds are notorious for. The traditional 2+20 model for hedge funds has fallen in response to the mass exodus to only 1.33% for assets and 17.71% for returns. Given the recent success of the overall U.S. markets, risks that are experienced in hedge funds are not as worth it as they were before, given those high fees and their recent struggles to outperform the markets as much as investors would hope for.